Hi, Bryte Church. Welcome to another devotional. As we get into the Psalms, it's a poem of David that we're going to be reading. And you can even call it a song of worship. But I'd like to read it in a different way and to paint a little picture for all of us to set the setting is imagine David, a young man, sitting in a quiet field with sheep running around, just eating on the grass. There's no distractions, no stress, nothing to stress about, no time, no urgency. And he's looking at nature, and he's having a lot of time to just look around and enjoy the things that he's seeing in him. He's breathing this nice mountain, cool, crisp air. He's looking at the flowers and smelling the flowers. He's looking at the landscape and sees the wind kind of sway the little plants and the trees. And he's under a tree, and he just begins to be overwhelmed, and he says, man, I got to write this down. And this is what I think is happening as we read this psalm. This is Psalm 8, verses 3 and 4. And he says, David's writing here, and just use that visual and hear him write, when I look at your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have set in place. What is man that you are mindful of him, and the Son of Man that you care for him? The question, I think, for all of us is, how often do we, as people, just stop, slow down, and just look around and enjoy creation? Because we tend to be in a rush from one thing to another, and hey, that looks cool, hey, that's awesome, and on to the next thing. But to write these beautiful psalms and use the words that he's using, I think it takes time to really soak in the things around you. And this is why I love camps and retreats, especially when there's no cell service. There's a lot of time to enjoy the beauty around you instead of the things on your phone. And there's a lot more time to read and a lot more time to pray. A lot of talking about spiritual things by the fire. A lot of time catching up, hey, how's your ear been? How are you doing spiritually? It's a really awesome time to unplug. So the question might be for us is, when's the last time you unplugged? You know, maybe the reason we are lost in our spiritual walk is we keep getting distracted. We can't finish a book. We can't concentrate while praying. When we're on a devotional plan or a Bible plan, we can't seem to stay on track with it because there's things popping up, there's things that we need to do, things that we need to get done. And maybe even as we're listening to this devotional, you got a notification or a ping or a message or an email came through. And I think the thoughts that David has here only come with rest in our soul when we slow down and begin to be edified by the things that are around us. And this is why he says in his Psalms, he's able to use work. He says the work of your fingers. He starts to realize, wow, God, you made that with your fingers, and the moon and the stars, you did that. We begin to kind of take in the beauty and realize how amazing God is. And when we slow down, we see God's beauty around us instead of just rushing through it. And another really cool thing when we unplug and disconnect from distractions is verse number 4. It says, what is man that you are mindful of him, and the son of man that you care for him? Then he sees this creation, and then he realizes, wow, God did all of that. He created this with his hand, and now he still has time for me. He still has time for us. When we slow down, we realize who we are and who God is, how small and insignificant we are compared to nature and amazing mountains and amazing waterfalls, and how big and amazing God is that he still has time for us. So my just encouragement for all of us is, in those times when we're super distracted, do we have time to slow down? In the times when we are able to overdose on God's blessing and majesty, we realize that we're not that important. Our schedules are not that important compared to God's majesty. This is why communion is an amazing time where we just slow down and think about, who am I that you would even think of me? Who am I that Jesus would die on the cross for me 2,000 years ago? And David is talking to God, and he's writing these heartfelt prayers only when he's not distracted by things around him, when he's able to just look at creation, slow down, and write amazing psalms. So this summer, as we're just kind of getting started with the summer, I really want to encourage myself first, and you guys as well, is find a time to disconnect, a weekend or a time in the morning, a Saturday or Sunday, bright and early, where you're able to get that time with God and just put everything away and really, really enjoy God's creation and enjoy God and realize who I am, who God is, and what this nature is meant to portray, to compare and to show us how amazing God is. And then maybe then when we disconnect, when we unplug, God might be able to write psalms, worship, and prayers through us, where we're able to see amazing, amazing things with God's masterpiece, using things like the Psalms and maybe even us using ministry, our ministry, whatever that might be, to make something beautiful like this poem of David, and be a service and a blessing to others. So I encourage you, Psalm 8, 3 and 4. When I look at your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have set in place, what is man that you are mindful of him, and the son of man that you care for him? God bless you guys.